was completely legal to dump plastic in the ocean until the 90s. And a lot of that plastic is still there because plastic lasts out there for a very long time. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. We know that over 300 species of wildlife have ingested this material. It's been reported in animals. And so as it is eaten by animals, it actually can move up the food web. And as the scientific literature on this issue increases, literally almost every habitat they've gone to, seamounts, Arctic ice, coral reefs, deep sea, it's become ubiquitous. And I don't think anybody would fight anyone on an argument that plastic debris has not become a contaminant of concern.
As the day unfolded, we had people calling from all over the northern Bahamas, saying the whale strand here, whale strands there. Something was causing all these whales to want to abandon the deep water and get the hell out of there. It was kind of devastating.
The problem is, in the ocean, we are injecting enormous amounts of noise. So much so that we are basically acoustically bleaching the ocean. All the singing voices of the planet are lost in that cloud of noise. More and more and more what you're seeing is deep ocean prospecting for oil and gas. So the modern form of dynamite is found in the form of air guns. Most of which goes vertically down into the ocean and reflects off the Earth's crust. And then you create an image of the composition of the Earth and you search for oil and gas. And then you have sets of them, 10, 20, 30, 40 of them in what's called an array. It's a big matrix of them behind the ship. And they all explode simultaneously. And there are multiple surveys, all setting off these charges at a regular rate of 10 seconds or 12 seconds. And the survey goes on for months at a time. These companies are able to take resources from the global commons, hydrocarbons in this case, and exploit those and damage the ocean ecosystem without cost. That, to me, is intolerable.
What is happening now is a disaster to us. The oil industry is hunting oil and gas on our fishing grounds. Catch it immediately were reduced by 60%. We are going to kill ourselves in the end because we are killing our food. This is happening all around the world. We know it. but it seems like we are not able to do anything about it.
I talked a friend into going for a flight the following morning, the stranding. We searched around and found more specimens, but we also saw military ships, U.S. Navy destroyer, and some other warships. Their warships were bouncing their sonars with very high intensity, mid-frequency sound.
The Navy developed something called active sonar. In its simplest terms, it involves generating extremely loud sound underwater to detect targets.
It's in a sweep, so when the sweep is pointed right at you, you get the full intensity of it. And then about a minute later, it does it again.
The impact of active sonar on whales and dolphins has been clearly documented in the Bahamas case and others where animals have been killed.
When biologists have studied their bodies, they have seen an array of very disturbing pathologies, bleeding around the brain, lesions in organ tissue, all consistent with decompression sickness or the bends.
Navy sonar is like an enormous predator. When whales hear it, some go silent, stop foraging, and abandon their habitat. Repeated exposure to sonar can harm whole populations.
You didn't have to have a hydrophone to hear the sonar. It was virtually unbearable for us on the porch. I can't imagine what it must have been like underwater. In the following days, 11 porpoises were found on the beach, dead.
They are highly conscious animals. They have self-awareness. They think. They have intellectual capabilities that rival ours. And this Inupiat whaling captain just looked at me, and very deliberately, he said, "Do you know that the ears are the entrance to the soul of the whale?" And it's not about science. Science plays a role in it. You use science, but it really comes down to what do we value? We value a living ocean. We're putting the ocean at risk. And if you put the ocean at risk, you're putting all of us at risk.
So the world is being held for ransom right now. And the security holes in all these different systems, well, that was created by the United States. And what's very interesting about this is that it hit many, many countries. Now, one country that wasn't really hit too hard was the United States. That's very interesting right off the bat. The deep state is sending a message to the world that, listen, we're still in control and we can do whatever we want to your systems. Don't mess with us, we will bring you down.
Pasó un año desde que el Congreso brasileño destituyó a la entonces presidenta Dilma Rousseff. Bajo el gobierno conservador de Michel Temer, el país vislumbra el fin de la recesión, pero también un desempleo récord y nuevas acusaciones de corrupción. Para los brasileños, mucho ha cambiado y al mismo tiempo, nada. Las próximas elecciones serán en 2018. El favorito, según los sondeos, es el expresidente Lula, que enfrenta 5 procesos por corrupción y si es condenado no podrá ser candidato. Un desenlace que podría intensificar aún más la polarización que vive el país.
They want to investigate me? Fine. If they want to summon me to testify, then they should. I only want them to be transparent with me. I only want them to be honest with me.
Macron hat gewonnen. Aber was hat er denn gewonnen? Wenn man Le Pen in der ersten Runde nicht bewusst ausgebremst hätte, dann hätte sie gewonnen. Auch wenn man in der zweiten Runde nicht alles dafür getan hätte, dass sie verliert, dann hätte sie auch gewonnen. Aber offiziell hatte sie nicht die geringste Chance zu gewinnen, weil sie mit solchen Positionen Frankreich nicht führen darf. Weil dann das ganze System zur Steuerung von Europa, das die globale Elite eingerichtet hat, zusammenbrechen würde. Solche Leute wie Le Pen brauchen sie zwar, aber nur um Korrekturen im System vorzunehmen, nicht um das System selbst zu zerstören. Und dieser Sieg von Macron macht ihn zu einem Schoßhündchen.
We're going to address the elephant in the room. Who is really to blame here, and how do we stop this from happening again? Who is orchestrating all of this? This attack, if carried out by ISIS as they claim, can then be tracked all the way back to the source: US, British, and Israeli intelligence agencies. And you can bet your life savings that the state is going to grandstand here in the aftermath of this event and make statements such as this: "Have no fear. We are united in the face of this tyranny and this tragedy, and together we will emerge stronger than ever." But what that means is they're going to tighten the noose that's already around your neck even more and remove some of the liberties and the freedoms that you are currently experiencing today. And so the cycle of violence continues, where the West will bomb the East, they will retaliate with agents funded and created by the West, and then the West will grandstand as the ultimate saviors to this problem they created in the first place, which is going to be order out of chaos.
think that the Trump presidency is already over. I'm not even sure he qualifies as a figurehead because he had made two promises that were extremely different and important. One was he was going to normalize relations with Russia and get us out of Syria and the entire Mideast, even rethink NATO. So none of this has happened. Trump, as the president, seems not to be part of foreign policy, certainly not of statements. So he seems to be sort of displaced from this role. But what we see now, I think, it's not Trump being displaced by his vice president. He's being displaced by the Washington establishment, by the deep state, by everybody. The CIA has essentially taken over foreign policy and has made it a policy of war.
Trump's unpredictability is another big factor. He many times he says one thing, then he says another thing, and then he says a third thing. So what does he really believe in? Where does he stand? I'm not sure, except for one thing. He delegated war making to hawkish generals. He delegated economic and financial policy to Goldman Sachs. He supports police state laws. The ones on the books are more that he wants to put on. What he really is doing, he's increasing the wealth disparity in America. He wants to slash food stamps, without which millions of Americans would be food insecure and have to rely on charity for food. So you go right down the line, everything for the privileged in America, nothing for everybody else, or most everybody else, or at most crumbs. On the one hand, he went to get away from the whirlwind of troubles that have been haunting him at home, literally a coup d'etat attempt to oust him from office. So he goes and pays a trip to Saudi Arabia, gets together with 55 Muslim countries, maybe all of them despotic ones. And he gave a speech that was an act of mass deception, claiming he came to Riyadh, allying with Saudi Arabia and the other Muslim states, seeking peace, intending to combat terrorism, where America's agenda and the agenda of his host are certain, and at least most of the countries, certainly the Middle East ones, the Gulf states, Jordan, Egypt as well, very definitely state sponsors of terrorism. They certainly are not combating it. There have been war plans drawn up against Iran for many, many years, updated over time, and probably Trump's team is updating them again. There's no question that the regime change is planned for Iran, but the other two countries, the main ones, regime change is planned for are Russia and China. All sovereign independent countries are on America's hit list for regime change to put pro-Western puppets in their place. I expect something maybe to explode at one point or another. The Syria war proved very, very tough for America to wage. Iran will be a lot tougher. They're a much bigger country, stronger military. They know what's coming. Every year, an annual U.S. intelligence report says Iran has no nuclear weapons program. There's no evidence indicating they have one, and yet the big lie continues. So maybe the next strategy is war.
really big revolution of the 21st century will not be in our tools, in our vehicles, in our society, in our economy. The really big revolution will be in ourselves, in humanity. The main products of the 21st century economy will be bodies and brains and minds. We are now learning how to hack not just computers, but how to hack organisms, and in particular, how to hack humans. We are learning how to engineer them and how to manufacture them. Homo sapiens, as we've known it for thousands of years, will disappear because we will use technology to upgrade ourselves, or at least some of us. And the danger is that we will start manipulating the world inside us in such a way that will completely unbalance our internal ecological system. And we may face a kind of internal ecological disaster, similar to the external ecological disaster that we face today. Another danger is on the social level. We may end up, due to these new technologies, with the most unequal society in human history. Because for the first time in history, it will be possible to translate economic inequality into biological inequality. Using the new technologies, it will be possible basically to split humankind into biological castes. Once you open such a gap, it becomes almost impossible to close it. The 19th and 20th century were the age of the masses. The masses were the central force in politics and in society, and almost all advanced countries, regardless of political regime, invested heavily in the health and education and welfare of the masses. We may be entering a new era in which the masses are just not useful for anything. They'll be transformed from the working class into the useless class. And if you look at armies today, you see that the transition has already happened. In the 20th century, the best armies in the world relied on recruiting millions of common people to serve as common soldiers in the army. But today, the best armies in the world rely on fewer and fewer humans, and these humans are not your ordinary common soldiers. They tend to be highly professional soldiers, all the elite special forces and super warriors, and the armies rely increasingly on sophisticated and autonomous technologies like drones and cyber warfare and things like that. So in the military field, most humans already in 2017 are useless. The same thing may happen in the civilian economy. We hear more and more talk about the danger of artificial intelligence and machine learning pushing millions, hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of people out of the job market. Same things may happen in other fields like in medicine. Computers and artificial intelligence are becoming better and better and competing and even outperforming humans in diagnosing diseases and in recommending treatment, which is what most doctors do. So we may be facing in the 21st century a completely new kind of inequality, which we have never seen before in human history. On the one hand, the emergence of a new upgraded elite of superhumans enhanced by bioengineering and brain-computer interfaces and things like that. And on the other hand, a new massive useless class, a class that has no military or economic usefulness and therefore also no political power.
robots have learnt to walk, open doors with ease, carry heavy objects across difficult terrains, and even withstand bullying to achieve key tasks. But can they pass what many consider to be the real test, talking like humans?
Talking to people is my primary function. It's a good opportunity for me to learn a lot about people.
Sophia is capable of natural facial expression. She has cameras in her eyes and algorithms which allow her to see faces, so she can make eye contact with you. And she can also understand speech and remember the interactions, remember your face. So this will allow her to get smarter over time. Our goal is that she will be as conscious, creative, and capable as any human.
Computers themselves are machines. They're useful for processes. You know, the way they were originally implemented, you know, back in the late 70s and early 1980s when we began to get these machines was that these were devices for computational purposes, writing, scientific endeavors. What morphed was the fact that we then came into a place where they became media devices, media generation devices. And actually, what they've become now are world generators, because the video gaming industry, which began to rise very rapidly, especially in the 1980s, has been very clever about building these virtual worlds that we live in. So computers very quickly scaled into something more than just working machines that served the ability of doing high-level computations. They became in themselves generators of a new reality. But where we begin to go off is when we become immersive, when we are connected electrically to these systems. And the technology behind mobile phones especially, because of the spectrum they occupy, because of the fact that we live in a world now that is saturated with electromagnetic frequencies as a result of microwave towers, not to mention all the other spectrums that are out there bleeding into us. They are altering us like drugs. This is a drug. Now, we have devices that are actually capable of detecting your emotional state based on your voice patterns. So we're no longer interacting at input-output levels. We're now interacting with these machines on a natural voice, human emotional scale that we've never seen in machines up to this point in time. What happens when we begin to interact with the machines themselves, or more correctly, the intelligence of the machines as opposed to the intelligence of humans expressed by the machines, is that we begin to go into a binary space. We go into a place where the algorithms themselves are taking what was at one time human input and now creating from that new forms that are not part of the original algorithm and not part of the original intentionality of the human operator. If you know about the singularity, if you know what Ray Kurzweil has discussed in his papers on the singularity, what they're telling us is that in as short a period of time as 30 years, the human being is going to be obsolete, that computational speeds and machine intelligence will overtake us, that we will be made redundant as a result of these machines which we created ourselves. And what they're pushing us towards is collapsing our consciousness into these machines now in quest of something very much akin to biological immortality as a kind of insurance policy against our consciousness disappearing. Our consciousness is not three-dimensional, it's not four-dimensional. It's multi-dimensional on scales we don't completely understand. If we lock the door behind us and immerse ourselves into the technology that's being given to us, we risk locking our consciousness, hence our souls and our spirits, into something that we may not be able to escape from, both collectively and individually. We need to be circumspect about the technology we're using, how we're using it, and we must be very careful to what we give our consent in anything that we immerse ourselves into. I mean, I know that sounds insane on one level, but when you begin to look at how this is all played out, there is a plan behind it. And the question is, who formulated the plan and what is the real outcome? Don't give your power away. Do not give your power away to artificial intelligence.
hablamos de razas extraterrestres y de su forma de interactuar con los gobiernos, es decir, de pactos con los gobiernos, es en buena parte gracias al sargento mayor norteamericano Robert Dean y al sargento retirado Clifford Stone. Los dos no solo han tenido acceso a información clasificada de primer nivel, sino que también ellos aseguran haber estado delante de seres extraterrestres, de haber tenido comunicación con varias razas. Estas dos personas han decidido hablar de que algunas razas cósmicas van a intervenir y se va a producir un contacto masivo con la humanidad. La pregunta sería ¿por qué, al menos hasta ahora, las razas benévolas, las razas cósmicas positivas no han intervenido ya, dada la situación del mundo? ¿Qué impide a estas razas suprimir, borrar de la faz de la Tierra a toda esta serie de entidades larváticas, sanguijuelas cósmicas, vamos a decir, que sabemos que están en pacto con varios gobiernos de la Tierra y que están manipulando, convirtiendo la Tierra en una granja humana y que somos de alguna forma una especie de sustento energético para estos seres? Bueno, pues por los datos que van apareciendo, los seres positivos no pueden intervenir por un motivo de peso. Mientras haya pactos entre gobiernos con razas de tipo draco-reptil o con razas de tipo gris, con tecnología inversa, permitiendo abducciones de ciudadanos para experimentación biológica y genética a cambio de tecnología, mientras haya todo esto, los buenos no pueden hacer nada. Eso es lo que nos dicen estos militares, no lo digo yo. Porque esos gobernantes que permiten esos pactos son parte de nosotros. Y por lo tanto, si forman parte integrante de nuestra especie, esto implica ese grado que os digo de permisividad. A ojos de una familia estelar es como decir, vale, ellos lo quieren así. Muy bien, pues así seguiréis. Ahora bien, también tengo que decir que se está produciendo un cambio. El paradigma está variando, porque aquí sí podemos hablar de una masa crítica. Si unimos la fuerza del pueblo junto con algunas filas de los servicios secretos de muchos países que sí desean esta ayuda y están ya de alguna forma interviniendo, esto va a cambiar. Fijaos lo que descubrió Robert Dean en un informe clasificado titulado Una asesoría, una evaluación de una posible amenaza militar a las fuerzas aliadas en Europa. Lo que revelaba este informe era la existencia de 4 grupos de razas extraterrestres que estaban plenamente activas en la Tierra. Había un grupo humano que se parecía tanto a nosotros que realmente volvió locos a los almirantes y generales, porque ellos determinaron que estas personas, y ellos los habían visto repetidamente, habían tenido contacto con ellos. Estas personas se parecían tanto a nosotros que podrían sentarse al lado de usted en un avión o en un restaurante, y usted nunca sabría distinguir la diferencia. Todo esto molestó mucho a los generales y a los almirantes. El hecho de que estas entidades inteligentes pudieran estar involucradas con nosotros, paseándose de un lado al otro por los corredores del SHAPE, los cuarteles supremos de los poderes aliados europeos, o caminando por los pasillos del Pentágono. Incluso se les ocurrió a algunos de ellos que estos seres podrían incluso estar en la Casa Blanca. Otro es importante experto muy destacado, el doctor Michael Salla. Dice, el testimonio de Dean es la clave para entender esta realidad de que los extraterrestres viven entre la población humana. Su testimonio demuestra concluyentemente que las agencias oficiales, militares y gubernamentales están conscientes de esta posibilidad y de hecho, indudablemente habrían estado desarrollando estrategias para tal contingencia. Todos coinciden en que existen una serie de razas alienígenas infiltradas entre nosotros que estarían ya activamente trabajando para desvelar su presencia en la Tierra. Son realidades tan perturbadoras, tan increíbles, que juegan con eso la élite. Saben que casi nadie lo podrá creer. Es tan fantástico la presencia extraterrestre, todas las formas de vida, que realmente es algo que la mente humana no tiene más remedio que reírse ante su ignorancia. Es que se ríen de su propia ignorancia. Robert Dean dice que él está en contacto, ha estado en contacto con varios seres y que estos seres le han mostrado cuál es el futuro de la humanidad. Y dice que nuestro lugar no está aquí, está en las estrellas, está en viajar hacia las estrellas, en conocer otros mundos, en fusionarnos con entidades que pertenecen a confederaciones galácticas. Nos habla de una gran familia cósmica. Estos seres están hartos de las guerras humanas, están hartos de nuestras armas nucleares, están hartos de que nos matemos los unos contra los otros y están hartos de que sigamos sin darnos cuenta de que hay algo muy luminoso dentro de cada uno de nosotros y que estamos perdiendo el tiempo intentando como desentendernos de estas familias cósmicas a las que indudablemente pertenecemos desde el principio de los tiempos.
world is in a state of evolution. And what I mean by evolution is not a physical evolution. Humans are not going to change into something different. The evolution that we're really experiencing now is an evolution in consciousness. A consciousness that has in the past separated us as individuals. A consciousness that has been programmed with a belief that life is a struggle and that we're out here to survive. We have to be in competition with each other and undercut and undermine. And we were acting as individuals, looking for our own individual power. But in today's world, there's a new understanding that the evolution is an evolution of consciousness, an evolution of an expansion of we are more than just these physical entities, that there is an energy involved. In Newtonian physics, the conventional ones that most people have learned, atoms are physical particles, like little granules. But in 1925, physicists came to another understanding because they said, so what are those particles made out of you called atoms? And they went inside. And they found there were smaller so-called particles, electrons, protons, and neutrons. But that still wasn't the quest, because what are they made out of? And that's when the world changed. Because when quantum physicists started to say, what is an electron or a proton or a neutron made out of? It's made out of energy, not physical, no substance. An atom is like a nano tornado, a spinning force field. There's an illusion that we are physical entities. You're an energy field. And I go, so what the heck difference does that make? And I go, well, here's the interesting part. Particles, I can separate. Here's a particle, here's a particle. Let's talk about one particle. Energy just mixes all together. I'm sitting in a field of energy right now. So if I'm made out of energy, which I am, does it mean that the edge of my energy stops right here? And the answer is no. In quantum mechanics, I'm an energy field. Wherever I go, I'm like a broadcasting an energy. Wherever you are right now, you're broadcasting energy. And so in a Newtonian world we grew up with, this is separate from this and that's separate from this. In a quantum mechanical world, nothing is separate. Everything is an energy field with no borders to it. So what I do in my world is not just what I do in my world. What I do in my world is broadcast to everything else. And if it resonates or is in harmony with you, my energy can affect your energy. Or my energy can actually cancel your energy. Everything is interconnected. The chair I'm sitting on is energy. The air I'm in breathing with is energy. I'm energy, you're energy. We're all connected in this energy. But the fact is, energies are communications. And we vibrate and broadcast just like a radio. We're broadcasting who we are out into the field, and we alter what's going on. It is beyond language. It's a communication. It has nothing to do with words. It's an energy that's available if you just want to feel it. And I think that's the big issue. Feelings. Because feelings are telling you, you feel good? Yes, I'm having more energy. You feel bad? You feel weak? I'm having less energy. And I say, why is it relevant? It's more powerful than words. Energy can tell me, am I with people that are supporting me because I feel good around them? Or do I have a little quasi feeling of this, it doesn't feel right to me? So we have a new world that we're coming into, and it's based on the energy. And if you can read energy, you are being guided. If you can't read energy, you don't know what's going to happen next. If you follow the words, that's where we have been sold a bill of goods, where people say, yeah, these are good words, what do you think? And then I'll buy that because the words. And I say, yeah, but if you ever stop long enough to say, how do you feel about it, not what you hear about it. It empowers you beyond anything in the world. So the wake-up call now is, yeah, listen to people, fine, but feel it, people. Feel where you are. Feel, is this what I want to do? Do I want to do this or I want to do that? I say, you can ask your head and rationalize anything, but I say, don't ask the question of your head. Ask the question of your heart. Your heart is the monitor of the vibration. Your heart will give you an answer more accurate about anything in your world than your rational thinking will.